Bad Odd Bears fans, Breeze Nation, what is good? It's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Appreciate y'all for tuning in to show love. As always, a lot to get into on today's episode. Over the next few videos, I'm going to be breaking down some of the UDFAs that the Chicago Bears have signed. All of the UDFAs, I should say, that the Chicago Bears have signed. And I want to talk about their strengths. I want to talk about their weaknesses, and then have a conversation on, hey, is there a real opportunity for these guys to make the Chicago Bears? Because some guys may make it of extenuating circumstances. Some guys may not be able to make it, even though they have the talent to get signed onto a training camp deal. All that and more coming up next on today's episode. We're going to be breaking down Jaren Kump and Caleb Williams, former backup, who's now backing him up, Miller Moss. Let's go. Appreciate y'all for rocking with us. As always, man, if you have not done so, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, man. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel, only channel talk Chicago sports, how Chicago talks. So make sure that you stay in tune with us, man. All right, let's jump straight into this. Number one name that I want to start off with here is Jaren Kump. The thing about him is initially, right, you see offensive lineman, center out of Utah, 6'5", 315 pounds, 6-year senior, so a little bit older, and you go, we just drafted a center in Logan Jones. We've got Garrett Bradbury on the team. Why are we even talking about this guy? I mean, he's not going to have a spot on the team here for some years, but then you start to break down some of the strengths that he truly has and some of the things that he did at his time at Utah, and you start to realize, okay, wait a minute, this guy might actually have a real opportunity here to go out there and be a depth piece at a minimum to start here for the Chicago Bears, and may get some real run with the team if it got into a break glass in case of emergency situation. And you know what? I respect a player that can come in and can put in the work, and you look at him and say, okay, you understand this is literally break glass in case of emergency, but is ready for the emergency. And Ben Johnson has done a great job of identifying those guys. Listen, when you look at Jaren Kump, he's big, he's experienced. I think that versatility is the number one thing. Legitimate positional versatility. During his time at Utah, he played every single spot on the offensive line that you can play. Played most of them solid. I'm not going to say he played all of them great, right? But played most of them solid. He had starts at right tackle, left guard, left guard, and most of his time he spent that time at center. I think that matters for the back end of your roster. If you're trying to make a 53-man roster, right, versatility coming into the building, I think, is one of the biggest things that you could talk about for a Jaren Kump. That is a selling point for him, and being able to find a hole that the Bears may have defensively on that back end, that could offer you an opportunity to get a chance to make this team in the long run. I think his size as well as his power also help him there. He's got a big body, big frame, big anchor, and a very strong anchor. Does a good job not getting pushed backwards. Sometimes struggles with some of the quick twitch players and things like that. The guys that are a little bit faster, but as far as size and speed go, you have some really good pairings here with Jaren Kump. And I think the number one thing that you look at from this young man who is now getting an opportunity at his NFL career is experience and intelligence. And there is a video on YouTube, and I implore you, right, this was put out by Utah, where he's talking about, and his coach is talking about him as a player, but he's talking about, right, his experience there and being a graduate student and also being a player on the football team. And his coach is like, listen, he's the one that's hitting me up at 2 a.m. that's saying, you know, if we make this tweak, or if we make this check, or if we make this call, this is what it is. He's a guy that dives into the tape deeply. He's a guy that is always looking to find ways to help the team improve. Those are things that I think that you look at as far as a young player who's going to have to learn a very difficult system. And you say, listen, I know you're a little bit older, 26 years old, right? But if you can come in and you can hit the ground running on this, there could be a real spot for you. Now, at the end of the day, I would say you want him more on the interior offensive line than the exterior. Maybe that is a spot that is better held by Luke Newman, but he does have some of those athletic limitations, right? Like, I think the foot quickness is going to be a little tough for him. him to deal with some of the bull rushes and quick pass rushes as far as being a center. But if you put him in between a couple of really good players there, right, you could have a very versatile guard who can play some center and who can be a solid backup. I think for me, when you're talking about a developmental piece that has to hit the ground running, this is a name that I would be very, very interested in the Chicago Bears keeping around. And I love the fact that he's had an opportunity to make this team. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments, man. What are your thoughts on Jaren Kump? What do you feel he is going to be for this team? And do you think that he's somebody that could make the team in the long run? For me, depth offensive linemen have a good shot as long as you're able to pick up the system, pick it up fast, and be able to move through. To me, I think that that is a real opportunity for you to make this team in the long run. Like I said, let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below. Number two that I want to get to, and if you have not done so, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave the 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. The number two guy that I want to get to here is Miller Moss. To me, I think we've all, if you watched Caleb Williams at any point, you watched Miller Moss probably at the end of that season. And then if you didn't continue to watch him in that final season at Louisville, right, you saw a guy who looked like he was a very cerebral quarterback that was in a little bit of a tough situation going from USC to Louisville because of, because of playing time opportunities. But as far as the strengths for this young man, I think that he is a very good rhythm passer. I think that you have continued to see him throw with touch and throw with accuracy. He's not just throwing fastballs at you. He's not just throwing bullets at you, right? He gives you some of that touch. He gives you those things that you would love to see from a backup quarterback. And the number one thing that is probably his best NFL trait, and very similar to what he had with, and the praise that we gave to Caleb Williams, was he played with a high football IQ. He had very good mechanics, especially when he was getting involved in play action. And the number one thing for me was that he played smart and played on time. He's also now, because of going between USC and Louisville, he's got an opportunity to really be in some pro-style systems that I think would benefit him here starting off here, especially when you talk about some of the passing concepts that Ben Johnson is going to bring to the table. I think that's going to help him hit the ground running. And you already know, not to say that they are best friends, right? But you know that at a minimum, there's a little bit of a relationship here between Caleb Williams and Miller Moss. I remember Caleb talking about him through the process and letting Miller get an opportunity. He was like, listen, we didn't have a ton of communication, right? Because I was focused on my role and he was focused on his. But at the end of the day, you saw a player, you saw a guy who you wanted to see get his opportunity. I remember he got his opportunity in the bowl game because Caleb Williams had entered the draft, and he went out there and I believe he threw 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, looked absolutely dominant. The one thing that I guess if you want to talk about it as a concern for Miller Moss, you're not looking at a guy who is the top RAS score guy, right? Like, he's not the physical tools guy. He is the guy that's going to play smart. He is the guy that's going to play cerebral. He's the guy that is going to make the right move, but it isn't always going to be able to get you out of trouble with athleticism or with flashy passes and things like that. I would also say, listen, we saw it last year, right? There were times where Caleb Williams had to make something happen outside of structure. I think that there's a belief right now that Tyson Bagent can do that as well. I don't see that really with Miller Moss. He has to be in structure, has to be in a pocket, has to be comfortable within that pocket. But again, you're pairing him up with Ben Johnson, who's an offensive savant and who worked with Jared Goff, who had guys tied to the pocket just because of physical limitations at times. And you're like, look, that's still a system that you can make work. I would also say, in some of his, if you want to look at the PFF numbers on it as well, he had 14 big time throws, but he also had 19 turnover worthy plays. So is that somebody who you want to take a chance on long term? But it shows you that there is that mix, right? There, as a backup quarterback can go. There's that boom and there's that bust factor, right? And if you've got a guy that can get you the ball down the field, can move the ball down the field, can play on time, play quick, and play within the system, you can get that boom out of him. Doesn't mean that you don't have that bust factor as well with him sometimes trying to make a play that isn't there for him. For Chicago, I think that Miller Moss could definitely make some sense with development. We know the relationship, like I said, between him and Caleb, but here's the bottom line of it, right? This is only a conversation for Miller Moss if at any point the Chicago Bears are truly looking to move on from Tyson Bagent and try and get something back for him. We heard that talk in the offseason, right? Maybe the Cardinals were going to go get him. We don't know what training camp is going to be. I think this is still a time to keep an eye on Tyson Bagent. Not to say you want to move on from him. I'd rather go to war with Tyson Bagent on the team. But if there's a team that looks at Tyson Bagent and they get into training camp and they go, this guy absolutely sucks, or right, quarterback gets an injury, you want to have a guy on your team who can step in and you feel comfortable starting with, right? Like, I think then there's a conversation to keep a guy like Miller Moss around, especially with the veteran experience you also have with Case Keenum in the locker room. Again, I'm not saying that this is the end all be all. I think more than likely, if everything goes as it has been, which I kind of expect the world that you're going to live in, Miller Moss won't be somebody who's on the Chicago Bears at the end of the day. He'll be somebody who gets an opportunity in camp, somebody who gets an opportunity to learn and develop with Ben Johnson, and then eventually he will move on and hopefully find a backup role somewhere else in this NFL. But I do look at Miller Moss as a player that has the talent to be a backup quarterback currently in this NFL. I think he's somebody that could go out there and could make some solid plays for you, step in a pinch and be, pretty solid in his role that you would need him to go into. But I also think that the Bears are kind of set at the quarterback position, which is a beautiful thing to be saying on a consistent basis. Let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below. Again, do you feel like Miller Moss could be someone who ends up making this team? Do you feel like he's somebody who, if Tyson Bagent is looked at as a player that the Bears eventually move on from and maybe just get some draft capital back, that a Miller Moss, even if, because here's the thing, we can see this, right? We get into camp, Miller Moss has been dismissed, yada, 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 and then they bring him back because they're like, well, hold on, we got this move that's going to go, so we're going to re-sign Miller Moss here. Do you think at any point there will be a conversation because of the Tyson Bagent talk that we heard this offseason that possibly Miller Moss is back in the building with the Bears? Let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below. We'll do 2 more undrafted free agents tomorrow that the Chicago Bears signed. We're going to go through all of these. Oh, by the way, on the Patreon side, going to be taking a look at any highlights or film that we can find of all of these UDFAs, and of course the draft picks as well. We're going to start with the draft picks, but then we are going to get into the UDFAs and look at everything that they have brought to the table through their college careers. So, hey man, appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. It is your boy Pat the Designer, back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down, one love. More content coming you guys' way on the channel, and if you didn't do so, check out yesterday's podcast where we talk about Ryan Poles' draft and how we feel that he nailed the draft. But do you agree with Ryan Poles' philosophy? I'll tag that video up here at the end if you just want to click over to that. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down, one love. Peace.